Hi there, it's Julie from the Edmonton Mennonite Center for Newcomers, also known as EMCN. Today we have a question from Arlene, who's a graduate of our accounting professional program.
Hi, Julie. I've heard Canadians are very private people. Why is it important to know when trying to make friends here in Canada?
That is a great question and something that often confuses people when they first come to Canada. Canadians have such a reputation of being friendly, but friendly means something a little bit different from country to country. What are commonplace questions and topics in one place, very different here in Canada. In this video, I'm going to give you a couple tips of some very major areas to avoid when it comes to conversation. That way you can make sure that you steer clear of any uncomfortable topics. What is discussed depends on the relationship that exists between people. The first important thing that you should consider is that what you talk about with a Canadian depends on your relationship. The closer the relationship, the more likely somebody is to talk about more private details with you. Especially when you're first getting to know somebody, there really isn't an exchange of a lot of personal information unless that person feels comfortable. And usually it's something that you have to wait for them to bring up. Now that again seems very strange to some people coming from other countries. And some of the topics that they're used to talking about when they just meet somebody wouldn't necessarily seem overly private. So again, we get that difference from culture to culture. When having a conversation with a Canadian, which topics should be avoided? So one of the first topics I would suggest avoiding is that of salary. Asking someone how much they make or anything to do with their finances is something that really isn't done. And that is different in other countries. Sometimes that is one of the first things that happens in a discussion when you're getting to know somebody. And it's not considered invasive or a breach of privacy at all. But Canadians often don't even share that information, even with people that they are very close to. So it's a topic that just should be left out. Another topic to avoid is that of marital status. Asking somebody if they're married or asking before you know anything else about them, what does your husband do? Right? Where is your wife? These sorts of things are considered very private and again, very invasive. In Canada, there's a lot of different ways that people have relationships, and it isn't always the traditional route of marriage that is so commonplace in other countries. So that conversation can be a little bit difficult. It's also important to understand that Canadians don't really define themselves by their marital status. As far as we're concerned, there's so many other interesting things to talk about and interesting things about us than whether we're in a relationship or not. And the last topic I would suggest avoiding when you're first meeting somebody is that of children. You don't want to ask somebody, oh, do you have children? Or how many children do you have? Again, this seems very, very strange to other people because that is one of the basic questions that a lot of times they ask back home when they're meeting somebody new. Here, that is, again, a little bit of an invasive question for a lot of reasons. It is something that could be good to talk about when the other person brings it up. But if you're asking if the person has children or assuming they have children, say, oh, how old are your children? That is, again, making assumptions. In Canada, you have a lot more people who don't choose to have children or choose to have children much later in life. And so it is considered a little bit more of a private thing. Obviously, if you meet somebody at a school picking up their child or something of that nature and you know they have children, it can be a discussion. But even then, you want to be careful and don't ask any more questions about, oh, how many children do you have? Or where are your other children? Now, in future videos, we're going to delve into this topic a little bit more deeply, and so you can understand a little bit more about why it might be such a, delicate issue. But for right now, it's just important to know that these are three topics that it would be really much more safe to try and avoid. There's a lot of things that you can talk about, but just steer clear of these ones. So let's review some of the things that we've learned today. There are definitely some topics that should be avoided in conversations. Things like salary, marital status, and whether or not the person has children. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you check back again because we'll have more videos related to this topic. Until then, have a great day and stay safe.